I'm running for 3 particular reasons. Number 1, our Constitution's been stepped on, trotted, trampled, essentially in Washington's mind doesn't exist. The platform I've been running on, can you guys all hear me in the back too?
Yes.
Has been based on 4 critical key things that I would like to talk about, issues that affect all of us on a daily basis. I'm going to talk about the problems and some solutions. First one, healthcare. The process of healthcare, what's going on in Washington, is turning out to be a nightmare. Scott Brown's win a couple months ago seemed like a great win. Then we lost the battle in March, and the war continues. The plan, if I can call it the Obama plan from March, is going to lead us down a pathway to socialize medicine out of those 2,400 pages of a nightmare. It is not designed to do what it's supposed to do, and I'll come back to that in a minute. It's another layer of government. It's filled with more than approximately 160 new commissions and boards that are designed to get between you and your doctor. It really, truly can lead to Canadian-style socialized medicine. And if you won't know any Canadian people, ask them how long it would take to get a hip replacement in Canada. The main problem in healthcare is not more government. The main problem in healthcare, the main issue is cost. C-O-S-T, cost. There are problems with the cost of the healthcare system that can be straightened out. Right now our healthcare costs us, anybody know how much of the economy? Take a wild guess. What portion of?
1/6.
He's the ringer. 1/6 of the economy. It used to be 4 or 5%, but 17% of the economy is now healthcare. If it continues, it will hit 33%, but it will never get there because it's about to break. So, Obamacare, the Democrats missed the key problem with healthcare from an insider point of view, it's cost. The Obamacare plan is going to be paid for by a couple of critical things. Number 1, it's going to steal $500 billion, not billion, but $500 billion from Medicare. And Medicare is virtually bankrupt. It will be bankrupt in 2017. It's going to add taxes. For example, if you need a hearing aid, it's going to cost more money because they're going to get taxed and they're going to pass it on to you. And they're going to add unfunded mandates on our states in 2018 through Medicaid. Our state, as you know, is broke. So what am I going to do about that if I get elected to Congress? 2-prong attack. Now the first prong is what a lot of people would like to see. Obamacare repealed, stopped, or overturned. And more data now is coming out showing it's a really bad plan. Recently, it just was announced that 14 million people with commercial insurance are going to lose their commercial insurance. They never said that before March. And it's going to be way more than 14 million people. So people want that repealed, stopped, or overturned. But the second prong attack is where you need an insider. The second prong attack is we've got to get to the root problem, cost. We've got to drive the cost out of the healthcare system. And these are costs that don't need to be there. These are parasitic costs. I wrote a plan. It's a 7-page plan called the HELP Plan, H-E-L-P, HELP Plan. Go to the website, you can see this plan in 5 steps. The American people could save $200 to $400 billion per year. By doing this plan, we will reduce the cost of healthcare without touching Medicare, without adding taxes, and without adding unfunded mandates on our states. So take a look at the plan, and that's what I would do if I go to Washington. Focus on repealing Obamacare, focus on the cost. Second topic of the night is border security. I want to make a distinction between that term and immigration as we go through this talk tonight. As a physician, I've done volunteer surgery in Mexico recently, last November, Bolivia, Kenya, and 5 weeks in Somalia where I had a grenade thrown at me in a war-torn country of Somalia. But as an Arizona trauma surgeon, and there's another one up here, I'm dealing with the ravages of illegal immigration and the lack of our border almost on a daily basis from the cartels and the felons who've crossed the border. And I could tell you stories for hours from a hospital point of view, but we won't have time for that. I'll have to write a book on that one. I would like to go through some other information. There's a town, city in Mexico called Tansataro. About 26,000 people, if I remember correctly. And the cartels came into this town, took out the mayor, the entire city council, the 60-member police force, and half the managers of the city. And essentially this city is now owned by the cartels. Nogales, 40 executions in January. Acapulco, some of you might have vacationed in Acapulco. In one weekend they had 30 executions from the cartels. You know about the rancher. You know about the sheriff or the deputy sheriff that was shot. I have been to the border 3 times. One time was to operate in Mexico. Here's the take-home message from that trip. I operated in Mexico. Every store and every house was barred because the Mexican nationals were afraid of kidnapping from the cartels. Then I went to the physical border twice. The most recent was a month ago. And I met an American rancher named John, 4th generation cattle rancher. He's got 10 miles of property on our border. Now John is considered one of the lucky ones because the fence is in his backyard. Our 2,000-mile border with Mexico, half of it has a fence and the other half has got nothing. John has a fence, so keep that in perspective as I talk about this. I spent 4 hours with John and then 3 hours with the border agents. John's fences, internal fences for his cattle, are destroyed every night. His water supply to the cattle is disrupted. His family's terrorized. He can no longer take his cell phone out on his property because he's afraid he will be shot. He no longer wears a gun. And guess how many people cross John's property nightly? Higher, getting close. A little bit higher, double that.
20?
20,000, thank you very much. Thanks for playing. You guys pay for 20,000 border agents. The football defense, here's the football defense. There are some border agents on the line of scrimmage at the fence. There are some border agents that are like the linebackers, 5-10 miles on the feeder highways. And there's many of them 30, 40 miles back on the main highways as like free safeties. Let me come back to that in a second. Now, who's crossing the border? We used to think it was just people looking for work. No longer. This is the problem. The cartels setting up shop throughout the United States, especially in the Southwest. Number 1 kidnapping city of America is Phoenix. The number 2 city in the entire world for home invasions, Phoenix. The cartels own the border. The felons are crossing too. 1 million Mexican felons are now in the United States. Not 10 or 100, but 1 million of them. And the terrorists, if they haven't crossed already, are going to cross soon. So, it's a security problem. So what am I going to do about that? We wrote our second paper called SOS, Secure Our Safety. There's a copy right there. And it's also up on our website. It's a well thought out plan. It's not perfect, but it's designed to show you how you can shut that border down with fairly good security. There's 12 steps. Let me highlight the top 3. Step number 1, the fence has to be completed like a prison fence or like what the Israelis did. Razor wire, complete the fence, do it correctly. Second, the 20,000 border agents that we pay for need to be considered border agents and be on the border. Otherwise, they're highway patrol agents. So they all need to go to the border. That's where they belong. Third, which is a pretty cool idea, which we took from the Israelis in our plan, you marry up the wall and the agents and you put them up in blockhouses every half mile to a mile. So imagine they're up on a 20-foot blockhouse or a 15-foot blockhouse in an air-conditioned room, bulletproof glass, one-way mirror so they could see on the other side who's approaching the wall. That's the first 3 steps of our plan. There are more in there. As an example, it's as silly as this. The wall down there is so rural, many of the farmers and ranchers can't really call the border agents even if they wanted to because their cell phones don't work. If you take those blockhouses and just put a little tiny repeater on the top of each one, then the ranchers would have an easy access to the border agents when necessary. So take a look at that particular plan. But securing the wall or securing the border is a critical first step. It's not the only step.